Hello and welcome back to BS of Rugby. Six Nations Round 2 is just ahead of us and I'm so excited for it. Although a really poor performance for Wales last weekend, of course, attention now turns to Scotland, who head to the Principality. The Scots, of course, coming off that brilliant win against England at Murrayfield last week. I was joined by Dan from Stuck in the Scrum, a fantastic Facebook group, to preview this game. He's Scottish, I'm Welsh, so it's going to be interesting. As always, if you're new here, make sure to hit the like button, comment your thoughts down below, your score prediction, and of course, hit that subscribe button. You can also join the Fantasy League as well. Get your teams in before kickoff. There'll be a link in the comments and in the description down below. And of course, because it's such a big game and I cannot wait for it, we're going to be doing a watch long here on the channel. We're going to be going live at around about 2 p.m. with kickoff at 2:15. I'm going to be joined by my good friend Kyle from his channel, Capo Starkey. He, of course, is a Scotsman, a proud Scotsman. And it's going to be an interesting debate throughout the game. And we're going to be watching it together. So do join us live from 2 p.m. Kickoff at 2:15. Link in the description, in the I button, and in the comments down below. But anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get straight into the preview. Let's have a look at what Dan had to say about this game. Let's talk about last week then, Dan. Very different stories for both of us. Obviously, as a Wales fan, it was a very painful watch as we went to Dublin and lost 29 points to 7. But for you, Pat Murrayfield, yourself, of course, was there, winning against England, 20 points to 17. And let's start with the Scots, first of all. What did you make of Scotland's performance? It seemed to be a very professional performance, didn't it? You managed the game well.
Yeah, with the weather up there, I don't think the TV really showed how miserable it actually was. So, I mean, that's the sort of performance that in the past Scotland would have crumbled and they would have fallen apart, but they saw it out. I know they didn't have the ball, but even in defence, there was very few times where Scotland actually looked troubled by the English attack. It was good, although the atmosphere was tense. My last Six Nations game was actually Scotland-Wales in 2017, and that was a very happy, very lively, almost party atmosphere, where this one, it was just, I don't think I've ever been so stressed watching a game of rugby before. It was just tense.
Yeah, it was. I thought Scotland, as I said, game management. And I was talking to my dad after the game, actually, and saying to him, it all came down to decision making. Scotland made the right decisions in the right moments, and England really didn't. And that's what let England down. But I was really impressed by Scotland and the way they managed the game. For Wales, though, obviously, from my perspective, we were just talking before we hit record. I just thought we weren't up for it. We weren't up for the battle. We were bullied up front. Josh Adams at the centre. Flashbacks, it was awful, and certainly isn't something I want to see again. There were a few bright sparks here and there, but nothing really to write home about. But you've got to credit the Irish. I know you only caught some of the game, but what did you make of Wales in the match?
Very poor, very poor. I mean, I saw the game just until about just after half time. I had to head off to the stadium after that. I've seen the match sort of back on with the highlights and that, but from what I did see, they looked very poor in attack. Their defence wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I mean, in the first half, they kept it, for the amount of possession they had, for a while, they kept that, 7-0, 10-0 scoreline for a reasonable portion of the game. It looked like it was in the second half. Wales, unfortunately, just crumbled. But I think you'll know more than I will, but this, I think, has been coming for a while for Wales. Personally, I thought it was going to happen last year. But you've got such a changing of the guard, and I mean, all your best players, if you name off the top of your head, they're all in their 30s. And it's just, where's that next generation of Welsh players? Where are they coming from? Bar maybe one or two. You don't have many. And there is going to have to be a transition where you just start to phase some of the old guys out and bring the new guys in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a transition. People have to be patient with it, but yeah, Welsh people aren't known for their patience, especially with rugby. Let's chat about the last 5 results, just to give us an idea of how we're looking. Actually, Wales have done pretty well against the Scots over recent years. Last season, of course, Wales beaten Scotland 25-24, though Scotland were leading by quite a bit. Got that red card, Louis Summit. Then in the autumn of 2020, we played that rescheduled Six Nations. Scotland winning in Llanelli that day, 14 points to 10. Not a great game at all. The Six Nations prior to that, Wales winning in Murrayfield 18 points to 11. In the Autumn Nations Series in 2018, I actually went to that game. Wales winning 21 points to 10. That was the Doddy Weir Cup. That was the first year that they did it. And then back in 2018, in the Six Nations 2018, Wales get a really big win, 34 points to 7. I think that was the year that Hogg got sent off. I think it might be before that. I don't know. But he got sent off in one of those games. So on the whole, Wales seems to have the dominance. Again, there's been a big thing made about the fact that Scotland haven't won at the Principality or the Millennium for such a long time. But I don't know how much of an impact that is going to make. Let's have a look at the teams anyway. They have been announced, and we'll go through them quickly. Starting with the Wales team, lots of changes. Well, a few changes, but we'll go through them. Starting in the front row, Wyn Jones, Ryan Elias and Thomas Francis stay as the front row. Will Rowlands and Adam Beard are also the front row. Tane Basham starts at 6. Jack Morgan comes in. He'll earn his first cap. I'll chat about him a little later on. Ross Moriarty comes in for Avon Wainwright. He came off the bench last week, wasn't fit to start. In the halfbacks, Thomas Williams partners Dan Biggar. That stays the same. Nick Tompkins stays at 12 with Owen Watkin coming in at 13. No Josh Adams in the centre. It's a blessing. But on the wings, we have Louis Rees-Zammit. Alex Cuthbert comes in the wing because Josh Adams is out injured with a calf strain. It's not meant to be too serious. And then Liam Williams stays at fullback. Looking at the bench then, Derry Lake, Gareth Thomas and Dylan Lewis are the front row options. Seb Davis and Aaron Wainwright are the lock and the back row options, with Gareth Davis and Callum Sheedy and Jonathan Davis. Just quickly to say on Jonathan Davis and Dan Biggar, they'll both earn their 100th test appearances on Saturday because they played obviously for the Lions and for Wales. So congratulations to them. What are your thoughts on that team, Dan? When the team came out, were you surprised to have a few inclusions in there?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know Josh Adams was injured. So that was the first shock when I saw the squad. If I have to be 100% honest, and this isn't any disrespect to Wales here at all. Like in years gone by, 2-3 years ago, that Welsh lineup would have terrified me. But this year, I mean, other than one or two, I don't think that Scotland are going to struggle too much. I might be made to eat my words on this. But look, Adam Beard's been playing quite well. He's one for the future. But I think he's a year or two away from, starting to be, a big proper star. Biggar, we all know that he's very, very good, right? And he's arguably maybe a better kicker than the likes of maybe Finn Russell or Marcus Smith, for instance. But he seems to lack the creativity on a move on an evolving game that some of the other fly halves would. Whether if the Welsh game plan is going very well, Dan Biggar will execute it better than I think many other fly halves in World Rugby. But when the turn of the game isn't going in Wales's favour, sometimes I question if Dan Biggar is if he's got the creativity to think on the fly and change up the game as it goes. So I don't know. Louis Rees-Zammit always dangerous on the counter. He scored that wonder try against us last year. You do have some really good players in there, but on the whole, I looked through a man for man comparison, and I think that at this period in time, I just think Scotland's got the stronger squad.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with you. Just a few names to watch this week for me. Jack Morgan at 7 has been exceptional this year for the Ospreys. Highest number of tackles in the URC, highest number of breakdown steals as well. I thought we really struggled at the breakdown last week. We really didn't get any parity whatsoever, and we were a little bit lethargic in that area. He will certainly feel like he's got something to prove. A new cap, will be excited. I hope the older players in the squad will guide him through that game, but I want to see him busy at the breakdown. Owen Watkin backing at the centre. I'm really happy to see him in there. Again, we've spoken about the Josh Adams experiment. It didn't work. Everyone was saying it wasn't going to work beforehand, and shock horror, it didn't work. So Owen Watkin is in. I'm really happy to see him in there. And I think, last year's Six Nations doing that wonder tackle on Duan van der Merwe when it looked set like he was going to score. Yeah. So I'm really, really happy to see him in there. An odd inclusion for me is Alex Cuthbert. I know there's a lot of question marks about why he's even in the squad, and I don't want to be picking on players because obviously he's been through a very difficult time. We've been left out of the squad and going to Exeter, and that move not really working for him. But as an Ospreys fan, I want to see the Ospreys players do well. I want to see them play for Wales. But I just don't know if he's at international level anymore. There are players such as Owen Lane down at Cardiff, who's been playing really well this season. He's got a brilliant try against Leinster a couple of weeks ago. And it's surprising not to see him in the squad. But on the whole, lots of injuries. But it is still a strong side. But we will move on to your boys and see who Greg has gone with. Greg has picked this team to head down to the Principality. We'll start with the front row. Once again, Pierre Schumann plays in the front row. Stuart McAnally and WP Nell comes into the starting lineup. Johnny Gray and Grant Gilchrist are the locks with Sam Skinner, Hamish Watson and Matt Ferguson there. Of course, Skinner in there because Jamie Ritchie is out for the tournament. Ali Price and Finn Russell are the halfbacks. Duan van der Merwe and Darcy Graham play on the wings. Sione Tupelotu comes into the centre for Sam Johnson, who partners Chris Harris. And of course, Stuart Hogg is our fullback. Leaving the bench then of George Turner, Rory Sutherland and Xander Ferguson, Magnus Bradbury and Rory Darge, Ben White, Blair Kinghorn and Cameron Redpath back on the bench. Could earn his second cap after his amazing performance against England last year. Thoughts on that squad? A couple of changes in there. Talk to me about the changes. What do you make of them? And are you happy with that squad, would you say?
I am, actually. Gregor Townsend's run the tombola again and picked a few surprise inclusions. But the first thing I thought when I saw that squad is it's a weighty squad. I think Wales struggled with Ireland's physicality last week. And it looks like Gregor Townsend's gone with that. I mean, Pierre Schumann, massive, massive unit. Stuart McAnally, you know how big and heavy he is. Even WP Nell, big, big scrummager. Johnny Gray and Grant Gilchrist, that almost picked itself. They're both on fine form. Sam Skinner at 6. It didn't totally surprise me because he's been playing 6 a lot for Exeter this season. And, well, I've said before how much of a big fan of his that I am. And just he gives that extra weight as well. Like he's a big man. Watson, it's hard to really move him at 7. Matt Ferguson, after his man of the match performance against England, you knew he was going to start. And then going into the backs, Price, Russell, Duhan van der Merwe, Sione Tupelotu. I think he's been put in there because of Glasgow's recent hammering of the Ospreys, and I think he got man of the match there, if I remember correctly. I think he scored about 2 tries that day.
Thanks for reminding me.
Sorry about that, mate. But again, he's a big, big unit. He's big, fast, he's strong, and that's like all over the park. This is what I see for Scotland. They're big. Harris, Darcy Graham, again. If Matt Ferguson didn't get man of the match against England, it would have been Darcy. He was fantastic. Stuart Hogg, and then I look at the power they've got on the bench as well. I mean, George Turner being amazing. Rory Sutherland and Xander Ferguson, you've got 2 Lions that's sitting on the bench. Magnus Bradbury, who's been lighting up for the URC. Rory Darge, who's been, again, the other on-form player of the URC. Ben White, that managed to score a try after his, for his 10-minute appearance for Scotland. Kinghorn and Cameron Redpath. I mean, again, I was disappointed maybe not to see Velicott, but after Ben White's performance last week, you can see why he's retained his place. Redpath, for me, is a bit of an unknown quantity.
You mentioned there quickly on the Wales playing at home, how much of a factor do you think the Principality is? Because for me, trying not to be too biased, I do think it's the best rugby stadium in the world. I think the atmosphere in there is incredible. I'm not sure about the roof, whether it's allowed to be open or not with COVID and all that. But how much of an effect do you think having 75,000 crazy Welshmen screaming and me screaming at home could have on this Welsh team?
74,999 because I'm going to be there shouting for Scotland. I'll see. I've never been to the Principality in person before, and it's
really you're in for a treat, mate. It is class. You're in for a treat.
I've been watching the anthems. I'm trying to get the anthem down for Wales, but I might not sing it in the stadium. I wouldn't want to offend anybody. With my butchering of it. But look, they've got a great record at home, especially when the roof is closed. But at home, they're a different animal. The crowd behind them, it pushes them. some less experienced players will be quite intimidated going to the Principality. Well, from what you hear and what you see on TV, it's meant to be a very intimidating place to go. But I'll find out for myself tomorrow.
I listened to an interview that James Haskell did last week, and I don't know if that's a good thing, but I did listen to it. And he said that when he played at the Principality, that if you were camped on your own 5-metre line defending, and the crowd started getting going, and those chants of Wales started getting going, it felt like someone was literally just pushing you back. It felt like that extra person just pushing you back all the time. So we can create an atmosphere. I hope we will create something like that and put the pressure on the Scots. Let's talk about how we think the game's going to go. I'll talk for Wales and you can get your thoughts in, obviously. I think for us, again, I said before the game last week that we had to be competitive in the first 20 minutes, not stamp on authority necessarily, because that's really difficult to do away at home against a team like the Irish, but we had to go in, try and put a foot down and at least get parity with this Irish team. We really didn't manage to do that. Struggled in the breakdown. We were very fortunate to be 10-0 down at half time. If I was to look at the positives from that game, there were moments where the Irish would knock the ball on or it'd spill out of a breakdown. And when we countered, we didn't look too bad. The problem was that Josh Adams in the centre wasn't working. The runners weren't quite clicking. I don't know how fit Louis Rees-Zammit was before the game, but he seems to be okay for this one. But I think for us, again, we want to control that opening 20 minutes, get the scoreboard going, manage the set pieces, which is going to be really important because Scotland have improved in that area a lot over recent years. But I think it's going to be a really, really tight game. And I just like to see players such as Louis Rees-Zammit get his hands on the ball a little bit. You know, Liam Williams get his hand on the ball a little bit. Just have that chance to run and try something. For Scotland, what's the game plan going to be? How is Scotland going to win this game, do you think?
Through the defence. What I was going to ask is how do you think the Wales are going to intend to break the Scottish defence down? Since Steve Tandy's come in, I think it was the BBC Scotland podcast I was listening to it, and they mentioned one really good stat on there, that since Steve Tandy came in, at the point where he came in, Scotland were conceding on average over 25 points per game, just over 25 points. Since Steve Tandy's come into it, Scotland now concede just under 15 points per game. So he's reduced that by 10 points a game, which is massive. They've got the best defence in the Six Nations for the last 2 years running. They concede the least points of any team. And like their back line can, hurt anyone. If Wales were going to target any area going into this one, I think it'd probably be Scotland's line out. Because it relies, especially for the quick moves, a lot on Jamie Ritchie. With him being out, Sam Skinner's, great guy to put into it, but he has to learn all the plays that Ritchie knew. He has to have that relationship built up with all the guys that only comes with time. I think Scotland will try to be big and physical. I think they'll try to drive them back. If Wales get frustrated, Finn Russell knows how to drag players out of position, and then he'll just sort of unleash the backs. I mean, when you've got two different options depending on the situation, the giant that is Duhan van der Merwe on his left wing, and then the little pocket rocket Darcy Graham on the right wing, it's quite hard to stop.
Yeah, I think Scotland are